What's up guys, Joey here, Tech, and as the OPPO Reno 2 is fresh off its local launch, we can't go without comparing it to Vivo's latest offering, the V17 Pro. If you missed our full reviews of both these devices, we'll put the links in the description down below. Continue watching to see which one wins at different aspects, Team Blue or Team Green. In hand, both phones are a little thick and hefty, yet still feel comfortable to hold thanks to their curved sides. Both phones' backs are constructed with glass, with the Reno 2 having Gorilla Glass 5 protection. The V17 Pro has this pearlescent look that's white for the most part, but also looks bluish when the light hits it. I like that. Here at the back of the V17 Pro, we find its protruding quad-rear camera module and LED flash stacked vertically in the middle. Meanwhile, the Reno 2 sports pretty much the same design language as the original Reno. Our unit comes in the luminous black color, which is not just plain old glossy black, but closely you'll notice that there are subtle blue accents around the edges. Here at the back of the Reno 2, you'll find its 4 rear cameras embedded under the glass, an LED flash, and then there's that O-dot bump under the camera module to protect the lenses from laying flat on surfaces. Of course, these two phones have full notchless displays thanks to their pop-up cameras on top. Here up top, beside the V17 Pro's front-facing camera are its noise-cancelling microphone and a headphone jack, while for the Reno 2 is the earpiece on top of that shark fin front camera. On the left side, you'll find a dedicated Google Assistant button for the V17 Pro and the volume controls for the Reno 2. On the right are both phones' power buttons plus a volume rocker for the V17 Pro and a hybrid dual SIM tray for the Reno 2. At the bottom, both have their respective USB Type-C ports, loudspeakers, microphones, plus a headphone jack for the Reno 2 and a dual SIM tray for the V17 Pro, which unfortunately doesn't support a micro SD card. All in all, both devices exude the feel of handsome flagship devices with neat design features. Personally, I like the Reno 2's design more with that luminous black color, the Gorilla Glass 5 protection at the back, the O-dot, micro SD slot, and of course the signature shark fin camera. But design is subjective, we all have our own personal taste, so do leave a comment down below which phone's design you prefer more. Checking out the displays. The Reno 2's comes in at 6.5 inches while the V17 Pro's comes in at 6.44 inches, so it's basically just a slight difference. Both are AMOLED panels with a resolution of 2400 by 1080. The Reno 2's front panel is protected by Corning Gorilla Glass 6, while for the V17 Pro we have another player providing protection. It's got a layer of Shot Sensation UP cover glass. We don't know for sure which one is more durable, point being they're both protected up front. Display quality on these two is great and immersive since we get those all-screen fronts, viewing angles are good, and do expect vibrant colors, deeper blacks, and good outdoor visibility. But I will say that the Reno 2's maximum brightness is, well, brighter. But all in all, for displays, I'm gonna give it a tie. For audio, we get the usual quality we expect from mid-range smartphones. The separation between the mids and highs is present, but highs can get distorted at maximum volume for both phones. Lows, on the other hand, are almost non-existent. Both phones do have headphone jacks though, so do take advantage of those for a better listening experience, especially if you have a nice pair of cans. Moving on to internal hardware, the V17 Pro is powered by a Snapdragon 675 chipset, paired with an Adreno 612 GPU, 8GB of RAM, and 128GB of internal storage with no option to expand. Meanwhile, the Reno 2 packs a Snapdragon 730G, together with an Adreno 618 GPU, also 8GB of RAM, and 256GB of internal storage, that's expandable also up to 256GB via micro SD. So with both carrying decent mid-range chipsets and ample amounts of RAM, I can say that both deliver good performance. Everyday performance pretty much doesn't pose a problem at all for either device. Both of them can also handle games with heavy graphics with minimal frame drops without heating up the back panel too much, although we do get higher frame rates from the Reno 2 since it has a better chipset. This is apparent when we see the benchmark scores, especially 3D Mark Slingshot Extreme, with the Snapdragon 730G handily outperforming the 675. So while neither device is a bad performer per se, you definitely get a lot more performance out of the Reno 2. As for software, both devices run Android 9 Pie out of the box, skinned with their own respective launchers. That's FunTouch OS 9.1 for the V17 Pro and ColorOS 6.1 for the Reno 2. They have somehow similar looking interfaces to each other with slight differences, but overall they're customizable to a certain extent, and they're packed with lots of multitasking and smart features as well as pre-installed apps. The Reno 2's UI can be used with an app drawer natively, while there's no option for that on the side of Vivo. However, I do like that FunTouch OS has its own native dark mode for system apps. But we could get further into this, but either way, just like design, we all have our own preferences with regards to software, so we'll leave it to you guys. Me, personally, I'm not a big fan of either, but, you know, ColorOS over FunTouch OS. For biometric security, both phones have an in-display fingerprint scanner as well as face unlock. The fingerprint scanners aren't the fastest we've seen, but still work really well as long as the screen is clean. For face unlock, they're generally slow-ish since you do need to wait an extra half second for the front camera to pop up first before it starts scanning your face. Also, the V17 Pro's face unlock only activates when the fingerprint scanner gets 3 failed attempts, which is actually interesting. Checking out batteries, the V17 Pro carries a 4100 mAh capacity with 18-watt dual-engine fast charging, while the Reno 2 has a 4000 mAh capacity with VOOC 3.0 flash charge. In our standard video loop test, the V17 Pro gets a total of 22 hours and 19 minutes of playback, while the Reno 2 yields 18 hours and 37 minutes. That's only a slight difference in raw test numbers, but in day-to-day use, both phones are definitely capable of lasting a long time. It all just depends on your usage. Either way you go, both batteries are reliable. When it comes to charging though, it's an advantage for the Reno 2's VOOC charging at just over an hour for a full charge from zero. Alright, so checking out the cameras, both devices get 4 rear cameras. The V17 Pro has a 48 megapixel main, 8 megapixel ultra-wide, 2 megapixel depth sensor, and a 2 megapixel macro lens. For the Reno 2, also a 48 megapixel main, 8 megapixel ultra-wide, 13 megapixel telephoto, and 2 megapixel for depth. Residing in each phone's pop-up cameras are a 32 megapixel plus 8 megapixel set for the V17 Pro and a 16 megapixel shooter for the Reno 2. Starting with these shots, both produce good colors, but the Reno 2 does come out with more natural tones. The V17 Pro has more aggressive post-processing as it's got heavier contrast, saturation, and falls more on the warmer tones. In these two shots, you can immediately notice that the V17 Pro, again, produces a more saturated look with more sharpened details and boosted colors. The Reno 2 falls more on the cooler side, but it's actually closer to the landscape's true colors in real life. Now this is 2x zoom. It's the same case again, but now the Reno 2's post-processing goes up a notch and is pretty much as saturated as the V17 Pro. Now this is 5x hybrid zoom on the Reno 2, which the V17 Pro doesn't have. It can also go up to 20x digital zoom if we wanted to. Now checking out ultra-wide, we get wider coverage from the V17 Pro as you can see from the buildings at the back, and it's also nice to see that neither phone gives much of a fisheye effect. For low light, both aren't really that good. Washed out and grainy, colors are lost, though the Reno 2 shot is slightly better as it's closer to what the scene was IRL. Okay, so more low light shots. These are with night mode turned off. And Vivo's AI scene detection is more aggressive here as we get a brighter shot overall with better detail. Now with night mode on, there's a boost in quality for both phones, no doubt, but the Reno 2's night mode does a much better job, as the V17 Pro I think added too much contrast here. Now both phones can shoot in the 48 megapixel mode. You get almost the same quality you would expect from both, but obviously with more data in the image that can be useful if you intend to crop photos or for low light situations. Now here's portrait mode. They're actually pretty close to each other when it comes to edge detection and blur, but I must say the V17 Pro shot here is a little bit more vivid. As for portrait selfies, here's wax, and in the Reno 2 shot, we get an okay background blur, but there's some beautification mode going on even if it's turned off. On the other hand, the V17 Pro does a better job with overall details, but since this is a portrait selfie, in this scenario we don't have enough blur and depth. For standard selfies, we have the V17 Pro coming in with better dynamic range, as we can still see out the window. Also, since it's biased more towards warmer hues, the skin tone here is just more pleasing. Alright, so at this point, both phones' cameras have their own pros and cons. Both perform well, but for this comparison, we're giving it to the OPPO Reno 2 with a slight advantage for producing more natural colors, having better night mode, plus that telephoto camera is a bonus. However, if we're strictly talking about selfies, then maybe the V17 Pro is a better choice. Now, to wrap this up, the Vivo V17 Pro is priced at 21,999 pesos, and for that you get 8GB of RAM and 1.8GB of internal storage. On the other hand, the Reno 2 comes in with a way more expensive price tag of 28,990 pesos. For that, you get 8GB of RAM and 256GB of internal storage. So far, in key categories, the Reno 2 is a better performer. However, is that price jump of 7,000 pesos worth it? Well, the Reno 2 is a nice upgrade over the original Reno and the OPPO F series for that matter, but considering the price, the Vivo V17 Pro can definitely keep up, no doubt about it. And I might even argue, for the sake of this comparison in particular, that it's a better deal to go for Team Blue. Now, let me know what you guys think. Are you going for the Vivo V17 Pro or the OPPO Reno 2? Let us know in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed this video, please do drop a like, subscribe to our channel for more content, hit the bell icon to know about any future uploads, and be sure to visit yugatech.com for the latest tech news and reviews. This has been Joey, and I'll see you guys in the next one.